Was excited to meet my fiancé's family until his mom pulled me aside and said I'd never be good enough for her son and started spreading lies to break us up while pretending to be supportive in front of him. I used to think I knew who my father was. Not completely. Of course, he was always a little reserved, somewhat reticent, the kind of dad who showed affection through functionality and not feeling. He was the one who taught me how to change a flat tire before I even learned how to do my taxes, who barbecued on Sundays and always seemed to have work trips the last week of every month. I didn't question. I just figured that's what dads did. They leave for a while, they come back with little trinkets or tired eyes, and you just pick up where you left off. I guess I didn't realize how much of that was routine, not intimacy. I guess I just didn't see the patterns, the missed birthdays when they fell during those conferences, the open-ended alibis that never seemed to require a video call from the hotel. It wasn't that I trusted him, I just had no reason not to. My mom didn't either, or at least if she did she never said. And that's probably what made what happened so much worse. Because it came out of nowhere. Because I wasn't expecting it. From the moment it happened, I just felt the earth under me simply melted and there was nothing to grab onto. I wasn't even supposed to be at that hotel. I mean, not at all. It was a total coincidence that my friend had invited me to this career development conference thing that they were hosting. And it just so happened it was at the same hotel where, supposedly, my dad's work conference was going to be. I remember thinking it was kind of funny, small world kind of thing, but I did not say anything to him about it. I figured, what were the odds we'd bump into each other? He always grumbled those conferences were boring, full of lectures and networking events I wouldn't care about. So I kept a low profile, helped with registration, handed out badges, managed mundane logistics. And then came lunch break. I was crossing the lobby towards the cafe on the second floor when I saw him. Laughter by the window. Laughter I hadn't heard him laugh in a long while. An easy, genuine laugh. His arm around the shoulder of a woman I didn't know. A woman who was vaguely familiar, as people sometimes are when you can't quite place where you've seen them. And then I noticed the kids. 2 of them. A boy who looked like he might have been 13. A girl, 8 or 9 maybe. And they were smiling at him like he was everything. And they were calling him Dad. Just like I did. I thought at first I had to be wrong. I froze. My mind tried to tell me it wasn't him. Maybe somebody that looked like him, same build, same graying hair. But then he turned. Completely. And looked directly at me. And I swear to God, for a second, I saw something break across his face. Not surprise. Not guilt. Just this flash of fear. Panic. And then he did something that broke me completely. He looked away. He didn't call out my name. Didn't wave me over. Didn't explain. He just looked away like I hadn't seen what I'd seen. Like maybe if he ignored it, it would disappear. I stumbled backwards into the hallway, into a supply closet, for real, and just sat down and trembled. My heart was pounding so fast it hurt. I couldn't catch my breath. I had to cry, but nothing would come out. I just sat there, staring at a stack of bottled water and boxes of conference folders and trying to process what in the hell had just happened. Trying to recreate 17 years of my life and add this woman and these children to it. I couldn't get their voices out of my head. Dad, can we swim later? Dad, can I have dessert? Like nothing. Like he'd always been theirs too. And I remembered all the times he said he was working late, or out of town, or stuck in meetings. And I remembered the birthdays he missed and the holidays he said he had to go in early for. I remembered my mom sitting alone at the table year after year making excuses for him. He works hard, honey. He's doing it for us. And I wanted to scream. I don't even remember checking out of that hotel. I got into my car somehow. I drove home somehow. My hands were shaking the whole time. I did not call anyone. I did not tell my friend. I did not know what to say. I was just replaying it over and over again in my head like a movie on repeat. Him smiling at them. The ease in his body. How well he matched with them, like he had never had to choose. Like he had not been living 2 different lives. I didn't know what to do. Do I tell my mom? Confront him? Do I just pretend I didn't see it and let it eat me alive? That night, I sat in my room for hours. I kept looking at my phone, expecting no, hoping he'd call. That he'd say something. Try to explain. Maybe even lie. Anything would have been better than the silence. But there was nothing. No message. No call missed. Nothing. As if he was waiting for me to say nothing as well. As if he was waiting to keep all the pieces in place and hope I wouldn't blow it up. The next morning, I called in sick at work and headed to my parents' house. My mom was in the kitchen, humming while she made tea. She smiled when she saw me. Said it was good to see me for no reason. And I looked at her, wondering how long she'd been in the dark. If she knew. If she'd chosen not to know. I came close to asking. Came close to saying it. But I couldn't. Not yet. I felt sick. Like literally sick. I went into the bathroom and just looked at myself in the mirror. My face was white. My eyes were red. I did not look like myself. I looked like someone who had just buried something they loved. When I did finally see him again, it was not on purpose. He came home that evening. I was sitting on the porch. He drove into the driveway and for a moment, it was any other evening. Then he saw me. His step faltered. His eyes did not meet mine. He knew. He was aware of what I'd seen. And when he sat beside me, it was as though he aged 10 years in one breath. Want to discuss it? He asked, his voice hardly above a whisper. I looked at him. Really looked. At the lines on his face. At the arms that held me when I had bad dreams as a kid. At the man who raised me. And I said, how long? He closed his eyes. His voice cracked. 17 years. 17 years. It resonated in my mind like a persistent clanging bell. I remember thinking it didn't even feel real when he said it. My heart went cold, as if all of the blood in my body just instantly evaporated at once. I waited for him to go on, to retract it, to tell me I was wrong, that it wasn't what it sounded like. But he didn't. He simply sat there with his shoulders rolled forward and his hands clasped together, as if he was waiting for a sentence. I mean, as if he knew what was to come and already stopped trying to resist it. I couldn't keep on looking at him. I turned away, stared out into the dark yard, and I felt this unbearable silence mounting up between us. So many things I had to scream, to ask for, but they all came out not quite as I'd wanted. I asked him, so all the vacations, all the birthdays you missed, you were with them? And when he nodded slowly, as if even that small admission hurt him, something inside of me split. Not in a dramatic way, not with overflowing tears or shattered glass. It was a gentler split. More hollow. Like a part of me just stopped believing anything at all. Why? I demanded. Why would you do this to Mom? To me? And his answer didn't improve things. It wasn't supposed to go on like this, he said, voice shaking. It started as an accident. One accident. I never meant for it to be a life. But then she got pregnant. And I couldn't just disappear on them either. I could remember just standing there, gazing at him. My jaw was clenched so tight it was painful. My stomach twisted into knots. So you chose to have two lives, I said? And just lied to all of us. Every single day. He just kept apologizing. That he never meant to hurt anyone. That he loved the two of us. That he was only trying to be a father to all his kids. But those were words that did not penetrate. They bounced off of me like rubber. I could not hear them and not be sick. Because what is love when it is linked to that kind of betrayal? When all the memories I had during childhood, all the times that he said he was proud of me, were intertwined with deceit. I thought of my mother again. Her whole life, thinking she had this stable, loyal husband. I thought of all the nights she waited for him to come back home from home, away from home. I thought about how she smiled when he came back, how she cooked his favorite meals, how she uttered repeatedly, "Your dad does so much for us." And did she even recognize who he was? Did I? I asked him if Mom knew. He said no. That he'd kept it from her all these years. That he told himself he was protecting her. That he did not want to ruin our family. And that one made me angry on a level I didn't even know that I was capable of. You weren't protecting us, I raged. You were protecting yourself. You were in a fantasy world where you could have both lives and never get caught. You lied to her face. You lied to mine. I could feel my throat closing, my voice cracking, and I hated the fact that I was crying in front of him. I didn't want to give him that. I didn't want to let him see how much it broke me. But it just kept pouring out. Years of trust, of believing, just running out of me like I'd burst a gasket and couldn't hold it back. You made me dumb, I breathed. You made me believe all of it wasn't true. He leaned forward to put his hand on my arm, but I pulled it away. I couldn't let him comfort me. Not now. Maybe never. I stood up. I couldn't be there anymore. My legs were weak, as if I was learning to walk again, as if the ground didn't feel solid. I went inside. My mother was still humming in the kitchen. She had no idea. Not yet. I looked at her face, so peaceful, so pure. And I knew I couldn't keep it from her. No matter how much it would break her, no matter how much it would devastate our house, I couldn't keep it a secret. I did not want to be the one to cause her pain, but I also did not want to lie to her like him. I said nothing that evening. I did not sleep. I lay there in my childhood bed, staring at the ceiling, ears attuned to the faint whispers of the house that I used to know. Every creak, every noise that I knew, sounded different now. As if I were a visitor in someone else's story. The next day, I woke up early and went downstairs. My dad had departed early in the morning before daybreak, probably to escape the fight. My mom was cooking breakfast. She asked me if I wanted eggs, and I said no. I sat at the table and looked at her, and she must have seen something in my face, because she asked, "What's wrong?" And my voice, so soft, almost silent, but I said, "There is something I must tell you." Her eyes went soft. She sat down, put her hands together, waited. I told her everything. Not all at once, not in a nice sequence. It came out in fragments, in broken thoughts, in stammering sentences like, "He has another family. I saw them, they called him Dad." She didn't respond at first. She just stared at me. I thought for a second that she maybe didn't understand. But then her mouth opened, and nothing emerged. And then her arms stretched out towards the table, supporting herself. And then she broke. She did not scream. She did not sob. She just put her head in her hands and whispered, "I always wondered." And that hurt more than anything. I always wondered. That's what she said, barely loud enough for me to hear. And that sentence just sat there between us like a wound that had been festering for years and finally split open. She didn't look at me for a long time, just kept her head down like she was ashamed. But I could tell it wasn't shame for what he did, it was shame for not knowing, for doubting herself all those years, for brushing aside the tiny red flags and convincing herself she was being paranoid. I asked her carefully, "What do you mean you wondered?" And she finally looked up, her eyes watery but dry, if that makes any sense. Like the tears had already been used up inside her before they even had a chance to come out. She said there were moments, just little things, things that didn't make sense. A sudden trip. An unexplained receipt. Missed calls at weird hours. But she said he always had an answer. Always calm. Always collected. Never angry, never messy. And that made it harder to accuse him, because it was like accusing a shadow. There was nothing to hold. Just doubt and silence. "And I didn't want to destroy our family over a feeling," she whispered. I sat there, trying to hold back my own emotions, watching the woman who raised me try to make sense of a life that had just unraveled in her hands. She had always seemed so strong to me, so sure of who we were as a family. And now, she looked lost. She asked me to tell her everything I saw. Every detail. I didn't want to, but I did. I told her about the hotel. The woman. The kids. The way they looked at him. The way he looked at them. Like he belonged there, like they were his real family, and we were just... I don't even know what. A side project? A backup plan? I saw her flinch when I described the little girl hugging him. That was the part that seemed to hurt her the most. She didn't say why. She just closed her eyes and took a deep breath like she was trying not to fall apart in front of me. And maybe she was. I asked her if she wanted me to stay. She said no. That she needed to be alone. That she needed to think. I didn't want to leave her, but I also didn't want to sit in that kitchen a second longer. It felt haunted. Not by ghosts, but by lies. By years of smiles and dinners and birthdays that now felt poisoned. I drove around for a while. I didn't know where I was going. My mind kept jumping from memory to memory. Him teaching me how to ride a bike. The time we built a treehouse together. The talks we had in the garage while working on his old car. All of it felt fake now, or at least twisted. Like someone had taken all those memories and scribbled over them with a black marker. But then I started thinking. Did those moments mean nothing to him? Or did he really love me, in his own way? That thought messed me up more than anything. Because if he did love me, then how could he also do this? How do you love someone and still lie to their face every day? Later that evening, I got a text. It was from him. Just a simple message. I'm sorry. I know you hate me. I understand. I stared at it for a long time. My thumbs hovered over the screen, typing and deleting a dozen different replies. At one point I wrote, "You destroyed us." Then deleted it. Then I wrote, "Do they know about me?" Then deleted that too. I didn't reply. I didn't even know what I wanted from him. An explanation? An apology? There's no version of this where anything he said would make it better. You don't erase 17 years of deception with a sorry. You don't undo the damage with a few words. I felt like he owed me something more, but I also knew he probably didn't even know what that was. The next few days were blurry. My mom didn't talk much. She was functioning, cooking, cleaning, doing laundry, like muscle memory kept her moving. But her face was different. She wasn't really there. Sometimes I'd catch her staring out the window, and I knew exactly what was going through her head. All the memories she was now forced to re-examine. All the pieces that suddenly didn't fit together anymore. She finally asked me, on the 4th day, if I could stay somewhere else for a bit. Not because she didn't want me there, she said, but because she needed space to think without feeling watched. I understood. I packed a bag, went to a friend's place. I didn't tell anyone what happened. I couldn't. How do you explain something like that without feeling humiliated? I was angry. At him, obviously. But also at myself. For being so blind. For being so trusting. And even, and this is the part one hate admitting, at my mom. For never telling me she suspected something. For protecting him with her silence. Eventually, I met with him. It wasn't planned. I was picking up a few things from my mom's house and he happened to pull into the driveway. We stood there for a moment in silence, just looking at each other. And he looked like he hadn't slept in days. He looked tired, small, like the weight of both his lives had finally collapsed on top of him. He said, "I want to explain if you'll let me." And something in me, maybe curiosity, maybe a need for closure, said, "Okay." We sat in the car. He told me everything. How he met her on a business trip. How it started as an affair. How he promised himself he'd end it. How she got pregnant. How he couldn't bring himself to abandon that child. Then another came. And before he knew it, he was living two separate realities. He said he tried to be everything to both families. That it tore him apart. That it made him hate himself. And I remember sitting there thinking, then why didn't you stop? But I didn't ask. I just listened. Because at that point I realized something. There wasn't an answer that would make it okay. There was no version of this story that would restore the innocence he took from us.